Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to the mean streets of Vaughan Manor. Actually, Roger, it's more like the dusty hallways of Vaughan Manor. But here we are. It's 4:18 a.m. I haven't had coffee or breakfast, and we're talking about this new case brought to us by Jim over at Mystery and Mayhem. See, Jim over at Mystery and Mayhem came up instantly, as it seems, with a new reading event for July. Private Eye July. It's Private Eye July. Now, he came to me with this and said, hey, you got to join the case, Mike. You have no choice. You have to get involved in this. And so, knowing what an intimidating fella Jim is, I said, okay, I'll do it. So Private Eye July, you'll never guess what it's about. You got it. They figured it out, Roger. It's about private eyes. It's a whole reading event all month long in July devoted to private eyes, private detectives. Yes, another reading event. Now, of course, Roger and I, our main gig during July is going to be Rocket Summer. Rocket Summer, a whole month devoted to vintage and classic science fiction. Vintage science fiction. It's awesome. So Rocket Summer. But Jim pulled us into this side hustle, Private Eye July. And since it's not particularly demanding, I thought, yeah, we could do that. So Private Eye July, which is all about detectives, private detectives. And a private detective, according to Jim's definition, is somebody that's paid for their services to investigate crimes or missing persons or that sort of thing, and is not part of any law enforcement agency. They can't arrest anybody, but they can, sometimes get arrested themselves, depending on how much trouble they get into. And private detectives, they tend to get into a lot of trouble, Roger. And there are two prompts for this reading event. One, it's not weekly, so that's good. One is to read a book about a private detective that was written from the 1920s up through the 1960s. That's prompt one. Prompt two is to read a book about a private detective written from the 1970s up until today, the stupid modern world. And that's doable. 2 books is very doable. So while I'm in the midst of aliens and outer space and rocket ships and all the other cool stuff from vintage science fiction, I also will be taking some dark alley forays into detective fiction. And I figure with all the science fiction I'm reading and Doc Savage and The Shadow and, maybe throw a Western left over from June on the Range in there, who knows, I should have time to do a couple, two to four. I've got 2 to 4 books lined up for Private Eye July. And one of them is the grand old classic, The Maltese Falcon by Dashiell Hammett. Because I've been meaning to get to this book. I've been meaning to get back to this book. I can speak, Roger. It's early. I've been meaning to get back to this book for a while. Dashiell Hammett's classic private detective novel about Sam Spade and the Blackbird, which I assume you've probably seen the movie. Well, the kids out there haven't seen the movie, but most of us old codgers have seen the movie, which is fantastic. And this book is great. It's a great detective novel. And so, yeah, I'm kind of anxious to get back to this. So this will probably be one of the books that I read. Because, this detective, Sam Spade, there he is, portrayed by Humphrey Bogart, my favorite actor of all time. So yeah, Maltese Falcon, probably will definitely get to this. And I might get to My Gun is Quick by Mickey Spillane. I think it was a year, maybe even 2 ago that I read I, the Jury, the first in the Mike Hammer series. And I liked it a lot, but for some reason I never got back to the series, probably because I was so busy reading other stuff. But now is a good opportunity to read My Gun is Quick, which is a short little thing. There's 3 books in this omnibus volume from Mickey Spillane. Mickey Spillane at one time was a huge name in fiction. People knew who Mickey Spillane was. He was very famous. Now, not so much. But he was like a best-selling author at one time. Back when he was writing books like My Gun is Quick and Vengeance is Mine. The super hard-boiled Mike Hammer stars in these books. So I probably will get to My Gun is Quick. Probably. I mean, it's short, so it'll fit right in there with all the other stuff that I'm doing. So that would be for the first prompt. But for the second prompt, there are a couple things. One is Walter Mosley's Devil in a Blue Dress, which is an E.Z. Rawlins mystery, the first E.Z. Rawlins book, which I've been, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know I keep bringing this out every year or two, saying, I should read this book. Well, this will be a good opportunity to read this book if I can get to it this month or next month. Next month. It's still June. Devil in a Blue Dress by Walter Mosley. Very popular series of private detective novels. Walter Mosley's E.Z. Rawlins mysteries, so I should get to that. And the next book has the private detective Jim Bob Luke. He couldn't settle for just one first name. He had to have 3. And that's from Joe Lansdale, and that's Cold in July. I don't know if it's actually going to be Cold in July. Probably not, but that's the title of this book. Joe Lansdale's Cold in July. There's Don Johnson as Jim Bob Luke right there. And the first time I came across this particular detective was in the Hap and Leonard series, which was a very entertaining series from Joe Lansdale. Probably the most famous thing he's done is the Hap and Leonard books. And so I think this is the first appearance of Jim Bob Luke, where he gets involved in the mystery happening in Cold in July. And Joe R. Lansdale tends to be pretty entertaining. He's a good writer, so I probably will read this, or at least attempt to. I should read Cold in July. That's when I should read it. You know, if I could fit it in with all the aliens and other planets and all the other stuff going on in Rocket Summer. So I will be doing both of these reading events. Rocket Summer, like I said, Roger, will be the main event. But then we'll be slipping off into the darkness with Jim to do Private Eye July. And Private Eye July, which Jim threw together in record time, has a lot of co-hosts doing it. And I'll link all of their channels down below. They already put out all of their Private Eye July announcement videos. They're all quicker on the chase than I am. But here's mine. So this is the other event that I'll be doing along with Rocket Summer. If you like private detectives, join us. It's not a huge commitment. A couple of books. Yeah, you could do a couple of books, Roger. Roger could do it. You know, if he could ever put down Jane Austen. Okay, guys, I will catch you next time.